What's up, everybody? I'm the Scott Punk Gamer, and today we're talking about yet another influential figure in punk, and their name is Bad Brains. The band may not have crazy numbers or following like our other two figures we've talked about on this channel, but say they didn't play a huge role in pioneering hardcore punk would simply be wrong, and this video aims to give some light on the band and hopefully get you to listen to them. So with our rambling and propaganda out of the way, let's circle pit our way into today's video. The band was formed in 1976 in Washington, D.C., which is crazy to think about as most punk bands during this time were just starting out, such as the Ramones in 74, Sex Pistols in 75, and The Clash in 76, along with some other names such as The Germs and The Damned. Unlike punk bands, they played many subgenres such as reggae, jazz fusion, and funk metal. During the band's year, they released over 9 albums and became one of the most iconic in the underground scene along with Operation Ivy, but we'll get to that one in a second. The original lineup for the band was lead guitarist Gary Miller, aka Dr. No, bassist Daryl Jennifer, Paul Hudson aka HR on rhythm guitar, and Earl Hudson on drums. The band was originally called Mind Power and originally played jazz fusion, but after their friend Sid introduced them to punk music, they had a change of heart and named themselves after a Ramones song called Bad Brain. They played at venues and quickly gained a fan base and a following, but in a mere year of playing, they were already banned from most venues because of their destructive fans and the way the energy would be sung between the singer and the fans, leading to them making their most popular song Banned in DC, which sits at 21 million streams on Spotify. Later in 1980, they moved to New York and played there, which led them playing consistent shows at a small little venue nobody's heard about called CBGB. You know, where all the legends play at? Yeah, no big deal. With the sarcasm out of the way, they would play weekly shows at CBGB and be well known. Dr. No would say, "We played CBs every night. This whole Sunday Manatee thing is from us. When we first played, nobody was there. It was like, who are these guys? And we're in their face killing it. We got a weekend day, and by then a little buzz started happening." In 82, they released their first self-titled album and released it as cassette only. The album is rated as an 8 out of 10 on most sites, and personally, I think it is one of the best punk albums ever. Before this, there were little to no bands who did this in the style of music that they did, and this album has such a good sound, and I heavily recommend giving this one a listen if you can. In 1986, they signed with a label called SST Records and released the next album called Eye Against Eye. The album has the usual punk and reggae like in their last album, but this one also included elements of heavy metal and jazz fusion. Fun fact about one of the songs song Sacred Love is sung through a phone while HR was in jail for serving a cannabis charge. In 1987, after the release of Eye Against Eye, brothers HR and Earl Hudson would leave the band and pursue reggae music. 1988 rolled around and the Bad Brains signed with another label called Caroline Records and began recording their next album called Quickness, which has over 3 stars on most sites. But what's a brief history if not including some brief controversy? One of the songs called Don't Blow Bubbles was criticized because it looked down on homosexuality and made AIDS seem like a punishment from God. When asked about it, Dr. No stated, "We wrote the song as kind of an angry warning to homosexuals. We didn't really mean to insult them, but a lot of people we knew seemed to be living with their eyes closed." Later in 2007, bassist Daryl Jennifer called their views ignorant and stated, "They don't understand that we've grown just like anyone. I'm not ashamed to say, maybe I could have been. Damn right I was a homophobe. I shouldn't have to explain that to the world because everyone will do that. That's wisdom. You have to grow to be wise." Later reissues of that album removed the song and left it as an instrumental. Personally, I think this album really sucks. I don't really like the shift from their original tone, and the music sounds like you gave a drunk guy a mic and got told to sing like a punk. So this one I really recommend too much if you're just getting to Bad Brains. But, you know, that's just my opinion. What do I know? The album was initially recorded with the 2 dudes who replaced Earl Hudson and HR, their names being Taj Singleton for vocals and Mackie Jason on drums. But after they joined the band again, HR re-recorded vocals and lyrics on the album. After Quickness, the Hudson brothers, who wanted to steer the band towards reggae, often argued with Dr. No and Jennifer, who were more interested in rock and heavy metal, something the band never started with. HR would grow a distaste for the band, often not showing up for the recording sessions and just not showing up for concerts or venues, and they would often have to find quick replacements. After the tour, the brothers would quit yet again and leave the vocalist and drum position open. Chuck Mosley would replace HR, and Mackie would join the band doing drums. The band would now enjoy commercial success with many record signings and tons of album sales under their belt, but yet they still continued to make music during this time. In '92, they would start making their next album called Rise, and would be signed by Epic Records. Later in '93, this album was released to be really poor, only getting about 2 stars on most sites, which is crazy because despite the album not being as punk as their first, this definitely isn't just some quickly produced garbage and sounds pretty good, which is funny because they had another singer for this album and his name was Dexter Pinto. When I listen to this, I get Suicidal Tendency vibes from it, and there's also some good hits of reggae in this album. And I definitely recommend it. If you're just getting into Bad Brains, I would heavily recommend this album, or I would recommend obviously their first self-titled, because I think it is one of their best albums, and this one has lots and lots of good reggae for it. But again, what do I know? Go check the album out for yourself, and you see what you like. Once again, in 1994, the brothers HR and Earl would join the band as they began working on the album God of Love after being signed onto the label Maverick Records. While supporting the album, they would go on tour with Beastie Boys and shockingly Deftones, who at the time were relatively unknown. HR would sing on the tour, but due to his erratic behavior and multiple violent instances against everyone, literally his manager, fans, and venue employees, HR was put into jail and the band was broken up once again. There are other albums to cover, but the significant ones were already mentioned, and I believe for a brief history, this is a lot of information, so we're going to skip ahead from 1998 to 2017, as I believe only about 3 albums were released, and none of them are super significant enough to really be mentioned. But I believe that also, if you want to check out those albums, you should just go and check them out on your own time instead of taking everything I say word for word. In 2017, guitarist Dr. No was put on life support for organ failure, but recovered because of a GoFundMe. And HR would also come out saying he was diagnosed with a rare form of headache and would have other health issues, but would also be alive due to another GoFundMe. One of the original members have died, 2 significant figures in the band have passed, and their names being Chuck Mosley, who sang for the Bad Brains on tours, would die in 2017 due to a drug overdose, and Sid McRae, who actually introduced the band to punk music, died in 2020 with no cause of death listed. So, in a way, I would like to dedicate this video to them. For a brief history, I believe there's a lot of information I went over, but I put a lot of heart and soul into this video, and I believe it's what some of the members would have wanted, I would hope. The band definitely has an interesting history and definitely had hardships, but with a band who pioneered punk music to be remembered for its successes and not its flaws, and I heavily recommend them if you haven't given them a listen. If you want to see one of your favorite punk bands featured on this channel, make sure you comment what you want to see and throw a like on this video. If you want to see more content, consider hitting the subscribe button as it helps out a ton. I'm the Scott Punk Gamer, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see everyone in another video. Goodbye everybody.